Hey guys, Brian delivers you the goods here, returning to you for an album review this afternoon for Voila's Glass Half Empty Part 1 album review that I got a chance to listen to for this 11 track record, and I'm going to let you know what I thought of this June 21st album that came out a few days ago. So I'm going to discuss what I listened to for this Voila Glass Half Empty Part 1 album. And I think it's their debut studio album, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not 100% sure, but I'll let you know my thoughts on this track overall. Or this album overall. So, let's dive into this album review now. It starts with Something Blue, and it's a solid track to open the record. Not one of my favorites, but it had a weird tone to the track, but it wasn't bad either way. So, this is a 4.5 out of 5. Then comes Caught It, featuring Chrissy Costanzo from or Costanza, I believe is her name. If I'm pronouncing it right, from Against the Current. I think this was a pretty good song. Sounded really good execution-wise. Electronic-wise, it's fine. But execution-wise for the whole track, I think Chrissy Costanza sounded really good in this song. So I was very impressed with this song. And I like her vocals in the In Another Life thing. Like at the bridge part of the song sounded really outstanding. So 4.75 out of 5. Glass Half Empty actually sounded like it was going to be one of my favorite tracks. I mean, there were a few execution moments that I didn't know if I liked with the lead singer's vocals. I think Gus is his name. It's either Gus or Lucas. It's one of them. There's only two band members in this band overall. I think there's a touring member that's a drummer, but honestly, with what I listened to, Glass Half Empty, the title track, it's a pretty good song, so 5 out of 5. Wish It On You, featuring Aviva, actually was a pretty good track in its own way. Really dig this song for most of it, so 4.75 out of 5. Aviva's vocals were not so bad with this track, but some of the execution, excuse me, yawning. Some of the execution was solid for what I went for. So, Dead to Me was a pretty good track. I'd give this a 4.75 out of 5. I really like this song. I think there's some moments where there were some execution flaws, maybe a minor one, but not a big one. But still, with how the track performed vocally, it was fine, but that probably was the execution flaw. Some of the vocals were a little hit or miss, but still strong track in its own way. 4.75 out of 5. We Could Be the Future, featuring the Ready Set, actually did grow on me. It took a bit to simmer with this track as I progressed through the track, but it was fine. So 4.75 out of 5. The Ready Set sounded pretty good in this track too, as well. So really dug this track. Voodoo is a 4.5 out of 5. I didn't necessarily hate this song, but I didn't necessarily love it. It's a good track, but there were some execution moments. Ugh. Excuse my tiredness, basically. Just trying to wake up a little bit. I got up at like noon, basically. I was sleeping for like 9 hours, but I still feel like drained. So, 4.5 out of 5 for Voodoo. I think Gus is the lead singer, if I remember correctly. And Lucas is the guitar player, basically. So, overall, I think this track was fine. I'm not sure it's one of those guys that were singing the track, but execution-wise, it's fine. Hope That I Go First was a above decent song. I had some cringe moments through this track that I wasn't sure if I was feeling for, but overall, execution-wise, it's above decent, so 4.25 out of 5. Blind Spot feature Kasandi Pope actually was a pretty good track. It sounded good with how it sounded overall, and just the way the melody sounding, Gus's vocals, Cassandra Pope singing in it sounded really good. So was really digging this track. 4.75 out of 5. Beautiful Lie is the second to last song before you get to the last track, but overall it's a pretty strong track for what it goes for in its own way. So 4.75 out of 5. It's pretty short too. It's like under 3 minutes, but it goes by pretty quick. Then comes the closing track, Petals, which is a pretty good track to end this record. I mean, not one of my favorites, but it is a highlight for the album. So I'd give it a 4.75 out of 5 for this one. Overall, production, mixing, and execution wise, I think Voila's new record, Glass Half Empty Part 1, was a good record in its own way. I think there were some moments where I wasn't sure if I was feeling for certain songs, but execution wise, it's actually not a bad record. It's a good record, actually. So, if I were to give this record its overall score, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. It's a good album. Definitely recommend checking it out, see what you think of it for yourself. Not everything is great from this record. I know some people might have not be used to Gus's vocals in this whole album because it does sound a little cracked up and chokish a bit. Like, it sounds like he's struggling to hit the note that he wants to hit, his range for his vocals. But overall, it still sounds good in certain songs. So, pretty much 8 out of 10 for Voila, Glass Half Empty Part 1 for this new album of theirs. I was actually impressed with this record a little bit. I wasn't sure if I was going to like it. I wouldn't say I was totally impressed, but I was. This was a listenable album. Excuse my yawning. This was a listenable album, is what I meant to say. So, with that being said, hopefully you enjoyed this album by Voila, Glass Half Empty, Part 1, for the album review, and thanks for watching this album review today.